Sometimes there are some sounds that one can hear even when the TV or radio is not on. You can see some visuals on the blank TV screen. Does it happen with you? For me, it is definitely the sound of the thump when the cricket bat smacks the ball right from the middle. This sound is almost therapeutic for me. Hello and welcome to this brand new episode of 180 Not Out. Over the past few episodes, we have discussed the rise of the leagues and how the white ball cricket has evolved. Today, as you might have guessed already, we discussed the evolution of batting. Hi, I'm your host Raman Raheja, and in my conversation with cricket legends and experts for this show, I talked to them about how batting has evolved over these 180 years and whether cricket today has become a sport that is batters dominated. All of this and much more in today's episode of 180 Not Out.
बैटिंग में भी कहा जाता है कि अगर आप रेड बॉल में आपको कंट्रोल ज़्यादा आ जाता है तो आप वाइट बॉल क्रिकेट में गेम बदल सकते हैं। तो बिगेस्ट एग्जांपल मैं कहना चाहूँगा, आप देख लीजिए विराट कोहली, MS धोनी। विराट कोहली टेक्निकली इतना साउंड है और MS धोनी टेक्निकली इतना साउंड नहीं है, लेकिन उन्होंने जब रेड बॉल क्रिकेट खेला, बचपन से खेलते हुए आए, तो उनको समझ में आया कि उनकी गेम क्या है, वो क्या कर सकते हैं, क्या नहीं कर सकते। तो हर चीज़ स्किल पे नहीं जाता है, वो आप किस तरीके से इम्प्रोवाइज करते हैं वो भी इम्पोर्टेंट होता है।
I think cricket has become more of a batter's game, I'll probably say. Wickets have probably become a little bit more suited to scoring higher, which obviously brings fans to the grounds, and I think in a way it's made it more exciting for the fans, but at the same time there's probably a little bit of room still to allow bowlers to come to the party, so that it's a good battle between bat and ball.
I don't believe that players, even 6-7 years ago, definitely 10 years ago, felt like that they could hit 12 off the last over. Now if you're in a position and you're batting 12 off the last over, you should win 80% of the time. 50-50 if it's 14-15 and a couple of good balls, but that's where the game's changed.
You look at batters now in the recent World Cup, they're not afraid of hitting it over the fielder on the boundary, in the 24th over, because they've done it in T20 cricket for 7 or 8 years, so they know they can do it in 50 over cricket. Whereas previously, World Cup in 2007, even 2011, there was still that period of the game where people just tapped it around and along the ground and didn't take any chances, in the middle overs.
If you have grown up in India, there's a good chance that you've played much loved form of cricket called gully cricket. Played in narrow lanes and neighborhood streets rather than in a playground or a field. It is cricket but with highly localized twists. Gully cricket has got its own rules like one tip, one hand, allowing you to catch a player out if you catch a ball that has bounced once but only with one hand this time. The wicket is often a wall, and if you happen to slog a ball across a neighborhood uncle's house, you're declared out. All of this aside, there's another prominent rule in this gully cricket, summed up in the phrase, Mera bat, meri batting first. I own the bat and hence I'm batting first. Batting has caught the fancy of generations of Indians, and this starts at a very young age. Children are encouraged to bat, and batting is given such prominence that the kid who owns the bat gets the most street cred, or should I say gully street cricket cred in India. This love for batting has been passed down from one generation to another, and so on and so forth. That was some societal context for India and how much we love our batting. But I think that's true for the entire cricketing world. If I ask you guys, who were the greatest cricketers in early era of cricket? I am sure the names that you would say or that would come to your mind would have more batters than bowlers. Even if you search the internet for greatest cricketers of any era, it throws names of more batters than bowlers. That's how generations of cricket fans have been fed with information. But now, let's move on to the nitty-gritty of cricketing, or I should say batting. Batting has evolved across all formats of the game. 6 days tests to T20s today, it's been quite a journey. But it's not like this change has come overnight. For each era, there have always been standout batters who have had their own unique style, who were the harbingers of an aggressive change in a game otherwise dominated by classic techniques. One such name that comes to mind is that of Sir Vivian Richards. Listen to South African legend Hashim Amla talk about his memories of Sir Viv.
One of my earliest memories is watching a video of Viv Richards playing Test cricket. And he leaned on his bat and he put his right leg across the wicket and just have a, like a pickup flick or pull for 6, over square leg back then in the 1980s, I think it was. When I watch footage like that, I'm like amazed. Those type of shots, and that's why for me in my heart, he's always the master blaster, as we call it. And now you're seeing that in T20 cricket, so the wow factor that's what it creates. Wow, what a shot! And the fact that you're seeing a little bit more in Test cricket too also gives me the wow factor whenever I'm watching or I'm commentating on it. I joked around with somebody on air once, and they asked me, what's your best memory? I won't say best memory, but what sticks out in Test cricket? I say there was a shot by Rishabh Pant played of Jimmy Anderson. It was a second new ball, and he reverse swept over the slips. At that time, it was certainly one of the best shots that I've seen in Test cricket because it had a wow factor to it, and that's what I really enjoy. And for me, that's what keeps cricket exciting for the viewer, and even for somebody like I've played a few matches. It still gives me great feelings having a look at that.
Just 2 decades back, cricket was a game where the roles of batsmen were limited to openers, anchors, and sloggers. Cricket has given way too many more kind of batsmen now, including finishers and innovators. In fact, apart from the technical scoring aspects of batting, which have primarily always been a part of the sport, now there is the wow factor, as Hashim Hamla pointed out earlier, which is also adding excitement to the viewers of the sport. Batting today is more aggressive than it ever was. And while it is hard to pinpoint when exactly this aggression got into cricket, one could actually consider the 90s to be a significant flashpoint moment in this journey of the sport. Listen to Shahid Afridi, a man who was at one point one of the most fierce batters in the world. He talks about how this change came along and who were the players who brought this aggression in the sport.
बैटिंग की बात की जाए, पहले 100 बॉलों के ऊपर कोई मेरे ख्याल में 10-15 रन होते थे. अब 30 बॉलों पे 37 बॉलों पे 100 हो जाते हैं.
बूम से अफरीदी से यही उम्मीद करते हैं कि उन्होंने वो चेंज लाए.
बस वो चेंज आया 96 में क्रिकेट चेंज हुई क्योंकि मैं था जयसूर्या ने स्टार्ट किया. श्रीकांत साहब होते थे इंडिया से, बड़े एग्रेसिव खेलते थे. एंड देन फिर सहवाग आए, कालू वितारना, एडम गिलक्रिस्ट, हेडन. तो ये वो सारे प्लेयरों ने बैटिंग के स्टाइल को चेंज किया. इसी तरह अब बॉलिंग है. बॉलिंग के अंदर आप कंसिस्टेंट एक जगह पे बॉल नहीं कर सकते आप, क्योंकि बैट्समैन अब रेडी होता है. बैट्समैन डिफरेंट शॉट्स सोचता है. बैट्समैन ये होता था कि मुझे अगर इस जगह पे बॉल मिलेगा तो मैं उस पे हिट मारूंगा, तो बाकी बॉलों का नहीं सोचता था. बाकी बॉल वो डिफेंस खेल. लेकिन अब यह है कि बैट्समैन के पास शॉट सिलेक्शंस बहुत हो गई, बॉलर्स के पास स्किल्स, जहां पे यॉर्कर, स्लो बाउंसर, स्लो यॉर्कर, स्लो गुड लाइन बॉल. तो अब चीजें बहुत चेंज हो गई हैं. फील्डिंग बहुत चेंज हो गई है. फील्डिंग का तो चेंज मैं समझता हूँ कि जॉन्टी रोड्स का एक बहुत ज्यादा उस बंदे ने क्रिकेट की में खूबसूरती अगर फील्डिंग के अंदर आई है तो वो जॉन्टी रोड्स की वजह से आई है. बाकी बड़े बड़े लेजेंड्स गुजरे हैं, सचिन, ब्रेन लारा, आई थिंक इसके अलावा आप जितने भी नाम ले, बड़े बड़े नाम इस वक्त फिलहाल ज़हन में नहीं आ रहे. सर विविन रिचर्ड, तो ये वो नाम है जिन्होंने क्रिकेट को चेंज किया, जिन्होंने क्रिकेट के अंदर खूबसूरती लेके आए हैं.
Batting has evolved, so have the batters, and this has had a direct impact on the scores. Just as what Boom Boom Afridi told us earlier, if you were to look back at the matches from the 90s or earlier, an ODI score of 270, 280 would be considered a defendable total. But just over the past month of IPL, we have seen 270 being scored thrice in T20 matches in IPL. I suppose the day is not far when the 300 runs barrier will also be broken in T20. On a similar note, I had a word with New Zealand's Ross Taylor, who talks to me about how T20 cricket has brought a certain sense of fearlessness into the batters, and the impact of this can now be seen even in ODIs, with the recently concluded 2023 World Cup being a prime example of this, with multiple high-scoring games. Here is what Ross Taylor has to say.
I think that 2020 has made batters have less fear and go out and attack a lot harder and for longer. If a team got 400, they've either played a weak team or someone's batted outstandingly well. I mean, there were scores of there must have been almost nearly 10 scores of 380 or more, and I think that was down to flat wickets and the conditions of the ball, and obviously players still having to bat well. But I still think the contest between bat and ball is not even at the moment. I think we still, some of the best games in that tournament were 280, 320, where sometimes chasing 400 might be good batting first, but if you don't get off to a good start, the game's done and dusted early on.
Not too long ago, you would hear things like Test cricket is about leaving the balls more than hitting them. People would often remember and praise the innings where cricketers endured the bowlers for long spells without scoring. Be it Dravid's 12 of 96 at the Oval in 2007, or more such incidents. The man who takes the cake here is New Zealand's LLCT, who scored 0 runs while spending 101 minutes in the field in a match against South Africa. But even Test cricket has changed quite a bit over the years. It has been impacted by the fast-paced white ball cricket. Basball is a symbol of that change. And most Test-playing nations have now embraced aggressive batting techniques even in Test matches. This fast-paced aggressive Test cricket can now be seen all over the world, including here in India, where the recent India vs England Test series saw our own Yashasvi Jaiswal virtually handing over the same treatment of baseball back to the English team. Here is what Zimbabwean legend Solomon Mire had to say about baseball and aggression in batting.
Across all formats, I think even there's the recent baseball in England that's kind of showing everyone that you can play your attacking style even in Test cricket. So I think even in Australia they've continued to play their brand, which has always been aggressive, but they still sort of match the English style, which of recent years. So in a way, I feel like it's been pretty good across the board to see that aggressive style of play.
Another interesting analogy that Shahid Afridi makes is when he compares cricket with films, and that today's generation might not enjoy yesteryear's films. And same is the case with a new generation of cricket fan finding this new style of cricket more attractive.
अगर मैं अभी पुरानी फिल्म देखूं तो मेरे लिए लगेगा कि यार ये क्या फिल्म थी यार, उस वक्त हमारे दौर में बड़ी अच्छी होती थी, हम जब यंग थे देखते थे, लेकिन इस दौर में इस टाइम पे अगर मैं वो फिल्म देखूं या वो मैच देखूं तो मैं कहूंगा यार ये क्या टाइम था, ये भी टाइम था। तो कहने का मतलब है कि वो चीज उस वक्त के हिसाब से अच्छी थी, लेकिन अब इन बच्चों को अगर दिखाएंगे कि बेटा ये मेरी फेवरेट फिल्म थी या ये मेरी फेवरेट इनिंग थी तो हंसेंगे हमारे ऊपर।
While ODIs and Tests have been around for a while, even the newest kid on the block, T20 cricket, has also been undergoing a change. Power hitters are most sought after these days, and their breezy knocks are getting increasingly common. Listen to S. Badrinath, one of the key players of Chennai Super Kings in the first 5 years of IPL talk about how the T20 scorecard has been ticking even faster of late.
2008 में जब आईपीएल जब आया था, जब तक अभी पावर गेम हो गया है, बहुत ज़्यादा पावर गेम के ऊपर लोग तो अपने आप को ट्रेन कर रहे हैं और अपने आप को खेल रहे हैं, जो भी प्लेयर्स जो भी अंदर आ रहे हैं। क्योंकि जब मैं शुरू कर रहा था 160 हम कभी भी चेन्नई पे खेलते थे, 160 के लिए खेलते थे और 160 किया तो हम कई बार जीत जाते थे। बट आजकल तो 160 तो बहुत आसानी से बन रहे हैं, तो लोग को उनका पावर गेम के ऊपर ज़्यादा ट्रेनिंग भी कर रहे हैं। और आई थिंक T20 क्रिकेट इज मूविंग टूवर्ड्स दैट पावर गेम, इट्स नॉट मच अबाउट टेक्निक एनीमोर। एंड जब भी मैं कोई भी यंगस्टर्स के साथ बात करता हूँ, अगर आजकल का क्रिकेटर्स जो है उन लोग भी ऐसे ही सोचते हैं, जो ट्रेनिंग करता है, जो भी उन लोग कर रहे हैं, सब पावर गेम के ऊपर हो रहा है। सो आई थिंक T20 क्रिकेट इट्स चेंज्ड ओवर द लास्ट डेकेड और सो, ज़्यादा मतलब पावर गेम हो रहा है।
T20 batting has been all about innovations of late. If you can innovate, there are chances that you would survive. But if you can't, well, that can be very difficult. Hear what our own Mr. IPL Suresh Raina said.
Everyone wants you to play some different 360 shots. We have never done that. Old school player था, मेरे coaches वजह थे, I wanted to play for longer time of my country. लेकिन आप देखेंगे, look at Maxwell, look at सूर्य कुमार यादव, look at रिंकू सिंह, और देखिए आप शुभमन गिल, उसके बाद जिस तरह से क्रिकेट चेंज हो रहा है, वो जिस तरह से fearless approach आ रही है.
This now brings me to the question, while innovators, power hitters and sloggers are a big part of the T20 format, does that mean the sport no longer has any space left for the technical batters? Badrinath provides an insight on that.
I think there is still room for technique. There is always room for technique. I think if you see, अगर आप एक टीम को सेलेक्ट कर रहे हो, 11 लोग हैं, 5 या 6 बैट्समैन ज़्यादा सब पावर प्लेयर है, तो you cannot run a team because the hit and miss ratio, their hitting probability for power players is little less. So even then, you need always consistency. You need always players who will be consistent, who will have good technique, who will play around the game. जैसे हम, I think it's making a comeback now. People are realizing that players like probably like a Kane Williamson or some other players who will actually take the game and go. Even a Virat Kohli. I think Virat Kohli is not a power player, but he is a superb T20 cricketer. So that is why he is so consistent in all formats of the game. So I think ये room है अभी भी, वो ज़्यादा वो technically तब आप खेलते हो.
And I asked a similar question to Hashim Amla about aggression versus technique in modern day cricket. Listen to him talk about it.
No, I don't think so. I think a perfect example of it not going out of the cricket frame is someone like Virat. A real classical batsman, beautiful technique, deep desire and hunger for runs, and you're seeing him churning it out in one-day cricket. Obviously in the World Cup he was had amazing form and played exceptionally well. So I don't think it has taken out any of the classicalness. In one-day cricket and Test cricket, I opened the batting in one-day cricket and batted 3 in Test cricket. So I would say technically there was still there's great importance on your techniques, because you're facing new ball, and in one-day cricket 2 new balls. Excuse me. So, but coming into T20 cricket, there is, unfortunately, you tend to lose your classical technique a little bit. Certainly after a certain period of time when you've batted, looking for more power, looking to hit across the line, or open the blade to squeeze the ball over point and things like that.
When you look at the batting lineup, the openers usually are the batters who have the most difficult task to give a good start, and in modern age really make a fast forward to a good start, to make the best use of power play and to add as many early runs on the scoreboard as possible. I spoke to Gautam Gambhir, an iconic opening batter for India for many years, and about his views are on how an opening batsman today should be.
This question was asked to me when I was actually playing Test cricket for India, and I said it very clearly that I've never been a believer in this concept that give half an hour to the bowler and then rest, or 1 hour to the bowler and rest 5 hours is yours. There is no guarantee that you got to give 1 hour to the bowler and then you will have those 5 hours. For me, I think whether it was T20 cricket, one-day cricket, or it was Test cricket, it was all about scoring runs. I would rather bat for 1 hour and get 30 rather than batting for 1 hour and get to 5 or 7 and then end up nicking one. So for me, I think it was all about having a very clear mindset of looking to score runs, and that's what probably helped me out in my international career as well. Till I played international cricket, my mindset was very clear. Look to score run of each and every delivery.
Who can forget the iconic innings where Gambhir scored 137 against the mighty New Zealand in their home, batting for almost 11 hours, helping India draw the test in 2009 after a follow-on. Gambhir goes on to tell me that sometimes your batting style also needs to adjust based on the need of the team.
For me, what my team requires, what that dressing room requires is how I need to play. Otherwise, you become really selfish when you start talking about it, that this is my style, I'm going to play this way, I don't care whether people like it or not like it. So at that moment, we could not have won the game. We had to bat 2.5 days to save the test match. If I would have slogged one out, or would have got out slogging one, probably I would have cursed myself more than my teammates. So sometimes if a good ball gets you out, it's okay. So for me, I think the most selfless players are players who adapt to situations, who adapt to their game, or who change their games according to what that dressing room wants. If that dressing room wants you to bat for 2.5 hours, or 2.5 days, you might as well try your best to do it. If that dressing room wants you to probably get 100 in 30 overs, make sure that you try your level best to do that. That is what selflessness is all about. You cannot be selfish in a team sport.
Moving on, from opening the innings to finishing it, another change that has come up in batting is the position of a new specialized role called the finisher. There are many names been doing the rounds in the last couple of decades, but with the most famous name being perhaps that of Mahi MS Dhoni. However, when this term was first coined, it was coined for an Australian batsman who was known to finish the job. On 1st January 1996, Australia was chasing 173 against the mighty West Indies, led by the legendary Courtney Walsh, and the team was down to 6 wickets at just 38 runs. The mighty Australian team was staring at a defeat, but one man made the difference: Michael Bevan, who scored 78 runs that day, took his team to victory with a 4 off the last ball. Bevan, from there on, was hailed as the finisher. In my conversation with him, this is what he had to say.
Particularly at the start of my career, I wasn't known as the finisher. And I'm not too sure that name came about until the end of my career, and it definitely came from India. So in Australia, I wasn't known as the finisher. That phrase definitely came from the Indian public and the cricket fans over here. And of course, I was probably the first finisher, but for me, it happened naturally. So one of my goals or objectives is I believed I should be there at the end of the match and the end of the innings. So it was a very strong focus for me to be there at the end, whether we won, whether we lost, or whether it was a draw. At the start of my career, when I played for Australia, we didn't really have targets or goals that we really adhered to. I think one-day cricket was still evolving, and it probably wasn't until John Buchanan came in and we had sort of targets and goals to hit that, we all had objectives and roles to play in the Australian team. My role actually did change because I was required less, because we had legends of the game like Gilchrist, Hayden, Ponting, Martin.
You're being humble.
Yeah, exactly. But I had these great players that were coming before me that were fantastic. And so, maybe my role was lessened and I had a smaller finishing role, or less times I need to finish the match because we had such a great team.
Another conversation that has been gaining momentum is that cricket is increasingly becoming a game dominated by batters. As I pointed out earlier in this episode, right from the gully cricket level all the way to sports video games, it is all about batting. While India has had legendary bowlers and continued to produce a new generation of bowlers, the very concept of bowling seems to be losing sheen among the viewers of the sport. In my conversation with Gautam Gambhir, this is what he had to say about cricket becoming a batter's game.
You see, you've got 2 new balls, there is nothing for a finger spinner, there is no reversing, you've got 5 fielders inside, flat wickets, small grounds. So you've got to give something to the bowler as well. What is a good sport? What is cricket? Why would people want to come and watch cricket when there's a contest between bat and ball? If there's no contest between bat and ball, might as well just put a bowling machine there and keep telling batters to keep hitting out of the ground. So you want to have that competition. You want to have probably prepare wickets which has something for the new ball bowler or something for the spinners as well. So I feel that I think one-day cricket has become too batters dominated.
Stuart Binney has similar thoughts on this matter. In fact, an interesting bit that he tells me in the conversation I had with him was that people actually do come to the grounds to see the batters hit big shots, and that bowlers are at certain disadvantage here.
I think the bouncer rule in T20 cricket can go up to 2 and over, because no one comes to a cricket stadium to watch guys get wickets, right? Everyone comes to see guys hit 6s and 4s and big chases. And it's a bit difficult for bowlers to bowl in situations like, because small grounds, flat wickets. And I think if they can bring the 2 bouncer rule into T20 cricket, it gives the bowler a little bit of an advantage. He has that option to go to. Rather, if he bowls the first bouncer in the first ball, you know you're not going to get a bouncer again. So you can really line up that bowler. But if you have a second bouncer in a T20 game, it just gives you that little bit of edge for that bowler to come back in that over. So if anything I would like to see would be maybe a second bouncer.
I had a similar conversation with former India pacer Munaf Patel, and this is what he had to say about cricket becoming a batter's game.
फ्री हिट आ गई, ओवर के 2 ही बाउंसर हो गए, T20 में 1 बाउंसर हो गया और विकेट फ्लैटर हो गए, क्योंकि बॉल वनडे में दोनों साइड से नए आ गए. तो एक्चुअली कह सकते हैं कि थोड़ा बैटिंग साइड का गेम हो गया है और बॉलर्स को इतना मतलब विकेट से या कंडीशन से इतनी प्रायोरिटी नहीं मिल रही है. तो उस चीज़ को आप कह सकते हैं कि बहुत चेंज हुआ है, क्योंकि आप बाउंसर भी काउंटिंग मार सकते हो. जैसे आप शोल्डर हाइट पे गया तो आपको बोला जाएगा कि 1 ओवर का हो गया है, तो आप फिर दूसरा डालने के लिए बहुत सोचोगे कि, और उसके लिए बैट्समैन भी रेडी है कि अब ये बाउंसर नहीं मार सकता है, तो आगे फेंकना है या लेंथ फेंकना है. और बॉलर्स को वेरिएशन बहुत ज़्यादा लाने पड़ गए. पहले बॉलर आप देखते तो लेंथ पे ज़्यादा कॉन्सेंट्रेट करते थे, लेकिन उसके बाद स्लोअर बॉल आ गया, यॉर्कर आ गया, स्लोअर बाउंसर आ गया, नकल बॉल आ गया. तो ये सारा वेरिएशन नहीं है, तो आप बच नहीं सकते, क्योंकि क्रिकेट इतना फास्ट हो गया.
And this is what Brett Lee, one of the fastest bowlers of our time, spoke about batting.
It is suiting the batsman a bit more now. In these different formats, we've gone from Test cricket and 50-over cricket and T20 cricket, T10 cricket now, which is very exciting. And you've also got to take into consideration too that the batsmen these days are playing unbelievable shots. Playing shots that were unheard of even 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. So you got a guy bowling 145 Ks and they're turning around and lapping and reverse lapping a ball that would hit the wide line Yorker for 6. And I'm up in the commentary box thinking, wow, this is just truly amazing. So on one hand, you've got wickets that aren't really conducive to fast bowling from a fast bowler's point of view. Batsmen that are on top of their game using better equipment, and let's be honest too, the batting equipment has improved so much in the last decade. The bats are bigger, they're lighter, they've got more power through that bottom end as well. But just the skill sets have improved so much of the batsmen. So as a bowler, we have to hold our nerve, we have to, I sort of keep saying my advice to bowlers these days is pray. Just before you go out, pray that you're going to get some wickets and be economical. But it's hard, but that's what makes it exciting as well.
Legendary Kevin Peterson gives me a balanced view on this as he breaks it down by the format. Listen to him.
I think in the longer format, bowlers still have a huge role in the game, huge role. And then in the shortest format, I think runs is what the fans want to see. They want to see the crazy shots, they want to see the scoops, they want to see the ramps, they want to see sixes. I mean, the team that hits the most sixes is generally the team that wins the game. So I mean, I'd love to be fair to the bowlers, but I think in the shortest format of the game, it is a batter's game. And it's unfair to the bowlers because they're just getting smacked everywhere, the scores that guys are making.
While in this episode, we talked all about batting and how batting has evolved over the years. And if cricket is skewed in favor of the batters, the next question is, what about bowling? While I will take up the evolution of bowling in the next episode, I would like to leave you with what Kevin O'Brien told me about the evolution of cricket and how sooner or later bowlers will get back to restoring the balance in the sport.
But ultimately then, what you'll see in world cricket, and sport evolves, cricket evolves, all sports evolve to the times they're in. You'll see bowlers come back in the next couple of years. They will up their skill. They'll up their defensive skill, how to, counteract the batsman who, like a Glenn Maxwell, who's scoring 200 off 110 balls or something, whatever. You'll see in a couple of years bowlers being able to defend that better than they currently are. And that's just the natural evolution of all sport, not just cricket.
While most of the cricketers I spoke believe that cricket today is a batter's game. But what are your views on it? Make sure to follow 180 Not Out on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook while you leave a comment there to let us know about how you feel about this change in cricket. I will see you in the next episode where we discuss the other side of the coin, which is the evolution of bowling in cricket. I'm Raman Raheja and I'll see you next Monday with a brand new episode.
From humble beginnings, it started as a game. A bat, a ball, a field, and players with no fame. But little did they know, cricket would soon ignite a passion that would last through day and night. 180 not out, we're going strong. 180 not out, the game goes